Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. And today we're going to talk about turning quadratic functions to vertex formula. Okay. So when we talk about quadratic functions, you're talking about the standard form of wait, am I right? Okay, so when we're talking about the standard form, this is our standard form for a quadratic formula. And we're gonna take this quadratic formula and turn it into something like this. This is what we call this is what we call uh, formula, vertex function, or something like that. Why do we have to study this? Because in graphing, in future lessons or grade 9 we will be graphing points, we'll be graphing the values of x, and we are going to need to find the vertex of it. So in order to find it quicker, we're gonna already going to make this quadratic formula. We're going to make it into a vertex. Yeah, we don't really need to talk about that anymore. So now let's find out how do we make a standard form quadratic equation into something like this. Okay, so our first example is y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 15. The first thing we need to do, The first thing we need to do is to rewrite the equation. Y is equal to x squared minus 8x plus 15. After that, we take our x squared and x, which are the quadratic term and the linear term. We take these two terms and group them together into a parentheses. So the clue here is that you group together the first two terms, or the terms the terms with the x in it. So in here the terms with the x is x squared and x. We just group the first two terms to the equation, which is x squared minus 8x. After that, we do a thing called completing the square. So if you recall in my other video, in order to complete the square, we get b over 2 squared. Whereas, and in this case, what is the b? Our b is here, as you can see in the standard form. The b is the number beside x. So this is coefficient of x over 2. So something like that. So that's what we are going to do in order to do this. So to do this, we have to complete the square, as I said. What the hell? We have to complete the square. Again, if you recall in the video I made, completing the square has the formula of what I just wrote a while ago. So what we're going to do, we're going to do is going to be an x squared minus 8x plus 16. Where did I get the 16? I took the coefficient of x, 8, divided it by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Then I squared it. After that, I squared it, and 4 squared is 16. So here it is. Now, the rule here is that if you add 16 to the parentheses, you're going to subtract 16 to the numbers outside the parentheses, or subtract 16 outside the parentheses. So that's the common rule. This is the rule. If you add it in the parentheses, the new constant. So this is your new constant, 16. You add it to the parentheses, that's why it's positive 16. Then you subtract it outside the parentheses. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Then simplify. To simplify a perfect square trinomial, all you need to do is find the square root of x and the square root of 16, put them in a parentheses. Square root of x squared is x, square root of 16 is 4, and just copy the sign of the middle term, which is a negative, so it becomes a negative squared. Then positive 15 minus 16. Wait, if you're asking where I got the squared, that's automatic. If you square root this, I mean, if you square root this, it's going to look like this. Then you always, of course, you need to you put the square because you square root, so you need to put the square on top. Yes, never mind. Then you simplify this because they're common. Plus 15 minus 16 is -1, and that's it. That's it. This is your answer right here. And to find if you want to find the value of h and k, the value of your h based on this formula is the number inside the fraction, right? So your h will be h is equal to 4. Then your k will be equal to -1. And that's it. Now next, another example. Okay, so here's another example. Y is equal to x squared minus 4x. What if there is no constant? Well, looking at this, it is still in standard form because x squared is here and the x is here. If the c is not here, you will consider this as plus 0. You will consider it as like that, but you don't really need to write the 0, so don't mind 0. This is still in standard form because x squared is in the front. Okay, so to solve this, we do the same thing. We write the equation. Y is equal to x squared minus 4x. Then parentheses. Then again, do what I did. The b over 2 squared is equivalent. So in this case, our b is the number beside x. The b is always the number beside x. Look at that, see? So the b is always the number beside x. So what's the number beside x? That's -4. Divided by 2 will become 2, positive 2. Then square it, it will become 4. It will become 4. So then we write it again. X squared minus 4x. And again the rule, add the new constant to the parentheses, you get plus 4. Then subtract it outside the parentheses, you get -4. But Zian, there's no number outside the parentheses. It's still the same. Even if there's no number outside the parentheses, you still subtract it outside the parentheses. So if you add it here, you subtract it on the other side. So now, you just simplify. Square root of x is x. Square root of 4 is 2. Then the sign in the middle, negative. Squared. Then just rewrite the -4 because there's nothing to simplify. And this is your answer here. Again, to find the values of h, your value of h is the number inside the parentheses, which is 2. And the k will be the value outside the parentheses, which is -4. Okay, so last example. What if the leading coefficient is not 1? Then same rule applies. We write the equation, which is 5x squared plus 10x plus 1. So that's what we're going to do. But in the here we see that a is outside x. So here ax squared, right? A is beside x. Here we factored out a from the equation, from the parentheses. So that's what we're going to do. That's what I don't know what. Basta yun yung gagawin natin, tol. Tagalog kayo. So here our a is 5. So we have to factor out 5 from the parentheses. So if, for example, that's a 6, you factor out 6. If that's a 3, you factor out 3. So in this case, it's 5. You factor out 5 outside the parentheses. So after you factor out 5, you divide 5 by x. You divide the 5 to the numbers inside the parentheses. So 5 divided by 5x squared is x squared. Why? Because 5 divided by 5 is 1, it becomes a 1x squared. So copy the sign. 5 divided by 10x is 2x. Because 5 divided by 10 is 2. Then because there's an x, you rewrite the x. X plus 1. Then after that, you do the same thing. Huwag niyong pansinin don't look at the 5, don't look at the 1, just look at the parentheses. You do the same thing, the b over a, the b over 2 squared. So what's our b here? The 2x. So it's 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. So again, we write again. 5x squared plus 2x. Then add your new constant, which is 1, to the parentheses. Then subtract it outside the parentheses. Minus 1. So this is, if I added it here, then I subtracted it outside the parentheses. So that's what, again, then simplify. This will become, oh wait, no, I almost forgot. If your leading coefficient here is not 1, it's for example, for here in this example is 5, your new constant should be multiplied to 5 as well. Because if you added this here, it's still going to get multiplied by 5. So if you subtract this here, it's also going to get multiplied by 5. That's the rule here. For example, that's 6. This will become 6 as well. If that's 7, that becomes 7. If that's 3, this thing becomes 3. So to simplify, 5 square root of x, square root of 1, and squared. And simplify this. 5 times 1, 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. Positive 1 plus negative 5 is negative 4. So that's it. Here's your answer right here. This is already the vertex form. For